Come on now, you have to wake up. Please, breathe. What in the world is she giving him?
The doctor's voice carried the weight of final things. He declared the time without lifting his eyes. The room held its breath as if breath itself had become rude. The CEO lay still beneath white sheets, a man who once ruled rooms, now ruled by silence. His wife stood rigid, lips pale, hands clenched around a future that had just been stolen. Orders were given to prepare the body. The world moved on, and then the maid spoke. She did not shout. She did not beg. Her words arrived soft, almost embarrassed, as if they feared being noticed. She said there was a plant. She said it had saved a life once. She said, please. The doctors turned, startled by sound where none was expected. A poor maid, pregnant, shoes worn thin, hands rough from soap and scrubbing. The room dismissed her before it heard her. Security shifted. A nurse looked away. Authority tightened its jaw. Yet the maid did not move back. She stood there with a small cloth bundle pressed to her chest, her other hand resting on her belly as if steadying two hearts at once. Her eyes did not challenge. They waited. She had learned waiting well. Her name was Lila. And for 5 years she had cleaned the upper floors before sunrise, when the city still smelled of rain and metal. She had learned the building's quiet language, the hum of machines, the whisper of elevators, the way wealth breathes differently. She knew which rooms were warm and which were cold. She knew the CEO's office because it was the cleanest, not because it was respected, but because it was lonely. Lila had learned dignity in silence. She wore it the way others wore armor. Months earlier, when her pregnancy first began to show, whispers followed her mop. Advice came sharp and careless. She kept working. She kept her back straight. She kept the child safe with small choices stairs instead of lifts. Water sips between tasks. Quiet prayers whispered into empty corridors. She had not always been a maid, Lila. Grew up in a village where the air smelled of soil and crushed leaves, where elders spoke to plants the way others spoke to children. Her mother had taught her the language of roots and stems, how some leaves calm fever and others call it down like rain. She remembered the touch of green between her fingers, the bitter scent that meant help, not harm. When her mother died, Lila carried that memory like a second spine. Life had taken her far from those fields. A flood took their home. Work took her to the city. Love came briefly, then left quietly. The child inside her became her promise to stay kind in a hard place. She had seen the CEO collapse days earlier in a hallway that smelled of polish. She had watched doctors rush him past, watched fear break through power for a single second. She had felt something old stir in her chest then, a warning shaped like hope. Now that warning stood before her. The doctors explained rules, protocols, liability. They spoke with practiced calm. With the confidence of people used to being right, they said the brain had gone too long without oxygen. They said miracles were not medicine. They said step aside. The maid listened. She nodded. She did not argue. Her silence unsettled them more than shouting would have. Bystanders filled the room, assistants, executives, relatives, people who had learned to stay quiet when the powerful spoke. Their eyes moved like fish in glass, watching without choosing. The injustice sat heavy, unchallenged. Leela lifted the cloth bundle. Inside was a paste, dark green, smelling of earth after rain. She said she knew it sounded foolish. She said she asked for 10 minutes. She said she would take all blame. Her hand trembled. Not from fear, from care. A senior doctor scoffed, not unkindly, but with a smile meant to end conversations. Security took a step closer. The wife of the CEO watched Lila, then really watched her. She saw the belly, the tired eyes, the way the maid's shoulders held a lifetime of saying, "Excuse me." Something in the wife cracked. She remembered the night her husband had promised to slow down, to listen more, to choose people over numbers. She remembered how life kept interrupting that promise. She looked at the still body on the bed and felt the rules loosen their grip. 10 minutes, she said. Her voice surprised even her authority paused. The room did not breathe. Lila moved with care, as if the air itself could bruise. She placed a small amount of the paste under the CEO's tongue, massaged his throat gently, pressed 2 fingers to a pulse that had not answered in minutes. She whispered nothing. Her work needed no audience. Time stretched thin. A minute felt like a year. The doctors watched with folded arms, ready to end the experiment. The nurse, who had looked away earlier, found herself leaning in. Lila felt heat in her palms, warmth she recognized from long ago. She remembered her mother's hands, steady and sure. She remembered a boy pulled from river water, breathless and blue, who coughed back to life after the same bitter taste. The machine lines flickered. A number changed, small, almost rude to notice. A nurse cleared her throat. A doctor stepped forward. The room leaned another flicker. A shallow rise beneath the sheet. The CEO drew a breath that sounded like forgiveness. No one spoke. They did not need to. The power in the room shifted without permission. Protocol bent to presence. Silence became witness. The doctor checked again. Slower now, reverent. He did not smile. He did not apologize. He simply nodded once. As if acknowledging a truth larger than his training, the wife pressed her hand to her mouth and cried without sound. Assistants lowered their eyes. Security stepped back. Lila sagged, relief washing through her like tidewater. She sat down, suddenly aware of her own body, of the child who had kicked during the waiting. She pressed her hand to her belly and breathed. One of the doctors asked her what the plant was called. She shook her head. Names were not the point. Care was. In the days that followed, the story tried to escape its cage. Some called it luck. Some called it coincidence. Others said the CEO's strength had simply returned on its own. Lila returned to her work quietly, carrying trash and miracles in the same hands. But people had seen. Silence does not erase memory. When the CEO woke fully, he asked who had been in the room when he crossed back. They told him about the maid. They told him about the herb. They told him how close the world had come to closing. He asked to see her. Lila stood in his room again, this time invited, this time seen. He thanked her without speeches. He listened. He said a line that stayed with everyone who heard it, that true power is knowing when to kneel before care. Another day, another line followed. That silence is not weakness when it carries courage. The building changed in small ways. Policies softened. Clinics were funded. A garden appeared on the roof, green and stubborn against the sky. Lila was offered a new role, one that fit her strength. She accepted with the same quiet grace she always carried. When her child was born, healthy and loud, the CEO sent a simple note. It said that life listens when we do. The miracle was never just the breath. It was the choice to hear a voice the world had trained itself to ignore. If this story moved you, share where you're watching from and what silence has taught you. Subscribe for more stories that honor quiet strength and the heroes who carry it without asking to be seen.